أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Today in this blessed month of Ramadan, we intend to tell you a part of an extraordinary story related to the story of the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. It's the unknown legend of a creature of Allah called Iwatie. Iwatie was a creature that had the appearance of a human being, but in reality, he was what can be defined as half man, half jinn. He was 45 meters long and lived in the ocean. His main occupation was his food. His technique was to stand up constantly, legs in the water, then lean over to catch a fish, expose it to the sun's ray, to grill it, and then swallow it. Unfortunately for him, his mission on earth was not only to swallow fish. Let's pause here for a moment and go back to the construction of Nuh alayhi salam's ship. The Prophet Nuh alayhi salam had built the ark by placing it upside down, with the deck of the boat pointing upward. Alone, without any help other than that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam carefully constructed the ark by posing piece by piece, element after element, until the completion of his famous masterpiece. But the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam was not yet at the end of his troubles. He was far from it, for the ark built on the ground was not to be brought into the sea. Confused, as he was all alone in this adventure, the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam solicited the help of God. He began by asking him a question. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how could I alone put this gigantic ark into the water? The Lord responded favorably to Nuh alayhi salam's request by ordering him to meet a mysterious creature who lives in the water, feeds on fish, and is 45 meters long. This creature was Iwatie itself. When the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam met Iwatie, he greeted and explained him the reasons for his approach, which was to launch his gigantic boat. Iwatie replied that this was possible, but only on one condition, for he does nothing without retribution. Nuh alayhi salam asked him what he wanted as a reward. Iwatie answered him, "Food. That's all I'm interested in." Nuh alayhi salam said to him, "I noticed that you only feed yourself with fish. I would like to propose you another menu to diversify." Iwatie, his turn, asked him, "What kind of menu?" Nuh alayhi salam pulled out of the pocket of his garment what is now called miya bread and offered it to Iwatie. Iwatie was outraged at what appeared to be an insufficient proposition to his eyes. He thus said in these terms to the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, "What you propose to me is hardly enough for lunch." The Prophet Nuh answered him, "Oh yes, it's more than enough for your lunch, if you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before swallowing." Iwatie decided to trust the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. He thus recited the mystical formula, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, took a mouthful of Nuh alayhi salam's bread, and was suddenly satisfied as ever. Impressed, Iwatie told Nuh, "I'm sure your bread contains a secret that I do not know. But now, let's put your boat in the water." When he arrived on the scene, Iwatie returned the gigantic boat with one hand, after which he asked Nuh alayhi salam where he wanted it to be placed. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam pointed out the side of a mountain, and Iwatie complied, and then returned to his usual place, namely in the sea. What is important to note is that the flood that caused the extermination of the people of Nuh alayhi salam could not take Iwatie away. Indeed, because of his 45 meters height, Iwatie resisted the flood, which, it must be remembered, submerged mountains. It should be pointed out that if God has gifted this creature with such an impressive size, it was so that he could move the boat of Noah while resisting the flood. Iwatie thus lived in the water until the arrival of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. God spoke to this prophet in these terms: Ya Musa, it's your mission to end the life of one of my creatures. His name is Iwatie. He lives in the water and is 45 meters tall. His particularity is that his soul is closer to that of jinns than to men. But in reality, he is neither jinn nor man. He is part of the mysteries of your Creator. Musa immediately wondered on how to end the life of such a great being. Ya Musa, I put in your cane the secret that must kill Iwatie. So you just have to hit his knees with your cane. Musa executed the recommendations of God to the letter. He took his stick, crossed the sea in search of Iwatie, and found him. He stretched out his cane to hit him, and at once God amplified his size and he hit him on the knees. Iwatie collapsed, and once on the ground, he exploded like an atomic bomb. On this subject, upon consulting the book which recounts the sacred history, and that of which our Sheikh, also called the manual, is well preserved in the sixth heaven. From it, we can read that the explosion of the body of Iwatie, wherever his bones will have landed, will be areas that will experience one or more earthquakes before the end of the world. Our Sheikh Qutb al-Aktab al-Kabir added that in his eyes, the most impressive is that Dajjal will disappear exactly in the same way as Iwatie. At the moment of his disappearance, Dajjal bodies will first begin to melt like an ice, and then release a smoke like that resulting from the explosion of a bomb. Do you, dear listeners, realize that God created a being, made him a giant able to carry the gigantic boat of the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, and resisted a flood that had submerged mountains? This same being lived until the time of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. The Lord killed him in the same way that the Prophet Isa will have to kill Dajjal. Also, the bones of this being will have created seismic zones everywhere in the world. Moral of the story: there is no such thing as coincidence for Allah, as God holds realities hidden within realities. Allah is really the omniscient. We have reached the end of this presentation. This text is drawn from the teachings of our honorable guide, Qutb al-Aktab al-Kabir, Mawlaya Sayyidi Muhammad al-Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.